تفريج القدمين, the spreading of the feet in standing. So when a person is standing in Salah, how far should the feet be spread? Okay, now this, let me tell you what the four madhahib think, and then some of the hadith. Okay, this is very interesting, and I think a student should definitely hear that. Ahnaf, they say the sunnah is to have a 4-finger gap between the 2 feet when you're standing. Huh? Yeah, there. That's one hand. They say, now because of the understanding, there is no clear-cut hadith on this matter. Rather, whatever is thought dignified in the custom and humble. What is thought to be the standing of with dignity and humbleness is what the fuqaha has gone with. And then I'll cover some hadith inshallah. Ahnaf, they say 4 fingers. Your feet are very close, but little bit apart. They dislike them to be too close, but little bit. They say this is aqrab lil khushu'. This is more humbling and khushu' if a person stands in that way. Shafi'is, they say 1 shibr, 1 hand span. That's how far your feet should be. Yeah. Now naturally, if you are standing naturally, I've noticed personally, I find I'm standing about, if I'm standing, let's say in a queue somewhere, and I will look and I'll say, oh, naturally I stand about 1 shibr. That's like natural for me. And Imam Shafi, he said, it's a guidance about 1 hand span, about that far apart. Okay. Malikis and Hanabila, they both madhahib, they say that you spread your feet normally as a naturally a moderate person in a moderate condition you will stand, not too close to each other and not too far apart that they become against modesty. Yeah, it's normal standing. There is no understanding of madhahib other than that. Now, I already said, Hanaf said less than 4 fingers apart is disliked. These are the things which does not invalidate your salah, which however you stood. Now everyone is trying to be closer to sunnah. Shafis, they said 1 hand span, and it's disliked to have anything less than that. Okay, it is disliked to have anything less than 1 hand span apart, like it is disliked to have 1 feet in front of the other feet. Yeah. Also, Malikis, they say the to tafrij of qadamain, to have the feet not sticking together but apart, is mandub, but it is not a sunnah. And you just stand how you would normally stand. Okay, not making an effort to close your feet further or spreading them apart any more than how you would normally stand. And Hanabila, they agree in the understanding with them. Now, what about feet by feet and shoulder by shoulder? Yeah. This is fiqh, and everyone has a right, if he could trace back his understanding to Salah. And now, the confusion, is it a confusion or not? When people say feet by feet and shoulder to shoulder, so they spread their feet and to touch the both sides of feet. So now look at this hadith. Okay, hadith pay attention so you don't lose me. Okay, I don't want to lose you. The hadith which is a dalil in this bab, because there are not many hadith on how you should stand. But Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, كان أحدنا يلزق منكبيه بمنكب صاحبه وقدمه بقدمه. This is a hadith in Bukhari. Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, one of us used to press his shoulder against the shoulder of his sahib, his companion, his feet with his feet. Okay? So, people read the hadith and they say that's how it should be. So, why do the madhahib, they don't follow that hadith? You know, the normal and the way of dealing with this situation in our time, maybe Imam Abu Hanifa didn't know of the hadith, maybe Imam Malik didn't know of the hadith, and maybe Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal didn't know of the hadith, maybe Shafi didn't know of the hadith. Maybe I'm the only one who knows the hadith. And this argument, I don't like it. Whenever someone says maybe someone didn't know the hadith, do you mean none of the Hanbalis up to this day know this hadith? Or none of the Shafis up to this day or Hanafis up to this day know the hadith? It's possible that Imam Malik didn't know the hadith, Abu Hanifa didn't know the hadith, but you say none of the Ahnaf up to this day know the hadith? No. And a lot of time you hear someone says maybe they didn't know the hadith, there's probably a book written on that hadith in the madhab. Okay? No one human knows everything, but as a madhab, you will not find a single madhab, but they have a commentary on everything which is out there for you to look at. Now, especially 14 centuries later, maybe after 10 years of Imam Abu Hanifa passing away, you could have said maybe Imam Hanifa didn't know the hadith. That's why his madhab, every madhab, the next leader of the madhab, the student, they kept expanding until they have done the work, and this, up to this day, the fatwa may change. Now, this hadith of Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that we, one of us used to spread, press his shoulder with the shoulder of his companion and feet with his companion. You take the hadith and you follow that, that's your madhab. There's no fighting people for it. But Ahnaf, they say, and I say Ahnaf because I've read, and I have a book. Anyone who wants to know the madhab of Ahnaf, there is a book called A'la al-Sunan. It's 3 volumes. It's one of the most beautiful book. It's recently written, with the dalail of Ahnaf. Okay, and I recommend, if you can read Arabic, you should take that book. Anyway, they said, ولو حمل إلزاق على الحقيقة فالمراد منه إحداثه وقت العقامة لتسوية الصف. If we were to take the meaning of this hadith, that it actually means to press your shoulder and feet with your companion, then we can say that this was done in the time of when the iqama was taken place, okay, to make the saf straight. فإن إحداث الإلزاق بين تلك الأعضاء طريق تحصيل هذه التسوية. By touching your feet and shoulder together, you can ensure that you are standing straight to your companions, with each other. ولا دلالة في الحديث على إبقائه في الصلاة بعد الشروع فيها. There is no dalil in the hadith that this position remained when the salah started. This is where all of the madhahib, they agree on that this position didn't start when the salah. This was done just to make sure I am in the right. Imagine you are living in a time where there is no lamp, there is no lines, you are in a dark. What would you do? You will just make sure you are next to you touch your feet to the feet of the person. But they say that this was done to make the saf straight. It's got nothing to do with being in salah. Once you knew, okay, and وَمَنِ ادَّعَى ذَلِكَ فَلْيَأْتِ بِحُجَّةٍ عَلَيْهِ. And they said whoever says this was inside the salah, then he needs to bring a hujjah for it. And that is, if there was a hujjah for it, we will know. Hafiz ibn Hajar in the Sharh of Bukhari, he said, "Al-muradu bidhalika al-mubalaghatu fi ta'dil as-saf wa sadd khalalihi." He said the same thing. This is to emphasize. This is not the reality of salah, but it's to emphasize in straightening the row for the salah. So it is understood that this hadith applies to in the time of iqamah. When the salah starts, you don't have to. Now, to further explain this hadith, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the full hadith is found not in Bukhari. The full hadith of this hadith is found in Musannaf Ibn Abi Shayba and Abu Ya'la. They said, narrated that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "i'tadilu fi sufufikum," make your lines straight. "Watarasu fa inni arakum min wara'i dhahri." Now Shuja and Hassan, the two of the narrators, they said, "Qala Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu said, فَلَقَدْ رَأَيْتُ أَحَدَنَا يُلْصِقُ," same meaning as yulziqu in the earlier hadith. يُلْصِقُ مَنْكِبَهُ بِمَنْكِبِ صَاحِبِهِ وَقَدَمَهُ بِقَدَمِهِ. He's saying that one of us used to press his shoulder and feet with his companion. Now, فَلَوْ ذَهَبْتُ أَفْعَلُ هَذَا الْيَوْمَ لَنَفَرَ أَحَدُكُمْ كَأَنَّهُ بَغْلٌ شُمُوس or shamus. He said, if I was to do this today, you will, run like stubborn mule. If this was a sunnah of salah, do you think Anas would leave it? Anas is saying, we used to do that, I don't do anymore. If I did it, you would be, freaked out basically. So, if this was a sunnah to do that in salah, no. That's why fuqaha understand, this was to make the saf straight. Later on when the lamps came, and it was easy to see, and people made safs, there was no need to press your feet against feet of people. Now you have bright light and you have straight saf and you are praying salah. Now this is my personal view, I'm not against someone who does it, I don't mind it. If you do it, continue, do it. Even if you do it to me, no problem. I find if you are in your salah and you are in the last saf and the next you are trying to concentrate or listen and a brother comes and next thing you hear someone, he touches you, his feet, your khushu is, forget your khushu, you think what the hell is happening? And it's not never a touch, it's like, what are you trying to push me for? It's against the tranquility, against the dignity, against the fact that you are someone in salah and you touching his feet. How does that make sense? And someone has big nails and someone, some people, they are mashallah builders, their feet are like made of rock. Just touch everyone like this. No. That's why the fuqaha didn't understand this hadith in the way that we take it, that a person comes, he knows where the saf is and he presses his feet against. So the understanding, the pressing of feet against the feet and the mankab is to make sure that I'm standing in the straight saf. It wasn't part of the salah. But the one who says it's part of the salah, how will you do in sajda? Will you do in sajda? How would you do in sajda? So that's why all of the madhahib, they didn't take it that way. But later on, people came, and I'm saying later on, people came who made it like the most important thing in salah. And every time, and they'll call you near and they hit your feet, come, and then let people pray the way. If you see someone do it that way, let him do it. This is his way. You respect his fiqh. But it's very important that we understand. If it was a sunnah, we know Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu wouldn't have left it. And it was a good way back in the day to ensure. But nowadays, unless there is a real need, I don't think a person should stand next to a person and hit his feet into feet of someone else.